Today is a historic day. The oil price went negative. Yes, you heard that right. The oil price went into a negative price. And at the lowest point, the price was down 305%. That might sound crazy, but yes, something can go down more than 100% if the price goes negative. And in this crazy environment, in this crazy financial world we are living in right now, these things are possible. Negative prices, negative interest rates. Just look at this chart. US oil prices turn negative. Price per barrel of WTI, and this is the price since the 2000s, and basically oil plunged straight down below the zero line and turned negative, a negative price, completely unheard of, historic day for the world economy. And I want to talk about why this is the kind of event that could change the world forever. This is the kind of event that could lead to war, that could lead to massive uprising. We know that many countries are dependent on oil, and the oil price is now basically close to zero. Now we should expect the Federal Reserve and other central banks react in a big way. We should expect the biggest quantitative easing we've ever seen before. We will see tens of trillions of dollars worth of currency get printed around the world to bail out the oil companies and try to get this back to normal. And if you think that that sounds interesting, then I think that you should definitely watch this video. Hello guys, and welcome to the moon. My name is Carl and I'm here to bring you this cryptocurrency video. However, instead of talking about Bitcoin in the beginning, now I am going to start talking about the oil price, which completely collapsed yesterday. It started off the day at $18.4 a barrel, but then it just completely collapsed. And guys, this is the daily chart, and you can see here how in one daily candle it started at $18 and it just started to plunge and collapse and collapse and collapse. Eventually it was down 100%. It was basically worth zero, but it went even further than that. To the lowest point, oil went down to negative $37 per barrel. Let's just scroll back a little bit here on the daily chart of oil. The oil price was actually $65 per barrel back in January. So we're just talking about a few months ago. The price was $65, and now it is basically down at zero. It doesn't take a genius to understand that this will have huge implications for the world economy. Oil is such an essential part of the economy. Many countries are completely dependent on the oil, and not to mention the United States. United States is the biggest producer of oil in the world. Not the biggest exporter, but the biggest producer of oil. So let's just realize that this is something that will affect everyone, every single human being on the planet. And so far we have not seen a big change in the Dow Jones, for example. The Dow Jones did fall slightly yesterday, came down a few percent. However, the question is, what would happen to the Dow Jones and all the other major indices around the world if the global central banks did not print trillions of dollars to hold up the stock markets? I believe we would see something very, very similar as we did in oil. The stock markets would completely also collapse currently, but we are seeing trillions and trillions getting printed. Interest rates are extremely low historically, and this is, in my opinion, why we are seeing stocks not fall as dramatically as they otherwise would have. So this means that oil might be a better reflection of how the economy is doing now than the Dow Jones, and I really think that's the case. And looking at gold, we can see not any bigger changes in gold. And looking at Bitcoin, we can also see that there were no major changes in Bitcoin. Bitcoin came down slightly yesterday, a few percent, but nothing extraordinary. I mean, people call Bitcoin volatile, but I mean, looking at the oil price now, you can just see that we have a new player in town that has introduced massive volatility. And I mean, people have been saying that Bitcoin is going to zero and that the Bitcoin price is too volatile for the ETF. But guys, I mean, something that actually went to zero in just one day is oil. And I mean, if Bitcoin is too volatile for an ETF, then what about the oil and all the oil ETFs? And just like I said in this tweet here, imagine all the trillions of dollars that will be printed in the next few months to try to get this back to normal again. and I expect tens of trillions of dollars to get printed. And we can take a look at the Federal Reserve balance sheet. And here we can see how ever since 2008, the Federal Reserve started to print massive amounts of currency. And here we can see we had QE1 right there, and then we had QE2, and then we had QE3. And this was supposed to be temporary. This was supposed to come back down again because this is the amount of currency printed. It reached a level of 4.5 trillion up here. But you can see how they have already started to print off of these already high levels, and the balance sheet is currently up at almost 6.4 trillion. And just like I said, I think we should expect trillions and trillions of dollars to be printed. And I believe that the Federal Reserve balance sheet in a few months, but at least in a few years, is probably going to be above 10 trillion. Maybe we will see it go up to 20, 30 trillion. And honestly, as we have learned from Venezuela and Zimbabwe, there is no limit to how much money they can print. They can print this to hundreds of trillions, quadrillions, quintillions. There is no limit, guys, and that is the problem with a centralized fiat currency. The problem is someone can print currency into oblivion. And of course, this will put downward pressure on the value of the dollar, and now even more so that the oil is collapsing, because oil is a big part of the dollar, right? People are calling it the petrodollar, and the dollar is used for international oil trade. I mean, what happens when no one wants oil? When oil is basically worthless? I mean, it's not only worthless, it's even in negative territory, which means that oil, it's basically like garbage. You have to pay someone. Look, if you want to sell oil, usually you get money, right, when you sell something. But in this case, it's the exact opposite. To sell oil, you have to pay someone to come pick it up. It's just like garbage. When you have garbage on your lawn, you have to pay someone to go pick up the garbage, because the garbage in and of itself is not worth anything, but the work involved in picking it up and going and throwing it away and storing it somewhere, that costs money. So that's why something can theoretically go into a negative territory, just like oil just did, because it costs a lot of money to store oil, and basically it's very inconvenient to hold oil. And if oil is worthless, then yeah, it's a big cost basically. So this is why we're seeing oil, it's dumped down into negative territory. So oil is basically garbage right now. And just like I said in this tweet, this is the kind of event that easily could lead to bigger uncertainties in the world, a lot of fear, a lot of tensions, and ultimately to war. And I don't want to spread unnecessary fear, but I think we also have to be quite realistic here. This is a major historical event. We have never seen something like this before. The oil price has never gone down to zero before. It has never gone to negative. And just imagine the chaos that this is going to lead to in the next few months and years. And this is also why I believe, or I know that the central banks, they understand this also. The governments, they know this. So this is why I'm expecting a massive reaction from global central banks. So we should expect trillions and trillions of dollars to get printed in the coming months and weeks. Most likely all global central banks are currently holding these emergency meetings, talking about what to do, how can they solve this problem. And basically they can only do two things. They can print currency and they can lower interest rates. But they can also widen the range of assets that they buy with this newly printed currency. Currently, we have seen global central banks already start to buy corporate debt, for example, which is unheard of. It's unprecedented, never happened before. I think the next major step they will take is start to buy stocks. They will start to buy stocks directly from the open market. And yeah, as you can hear, we are living in historic times. We are seeing many things happening right now that has never happened before, and now everything is happening at the exact same point in time. And of course, we cannot talk about oil without talking about the coronavirus. Of course, a big part of this is also that all travel has completely stopped, so there is no demand for oil. And Donald Trump has come out now and he said that based on the record low price of oil, the United States will be adding as much as 75 million barrels to the United States strategic reserves. And another thing that Donald Trump said over on Twitter is that in light of the attack of the invisible enemy or the coronavirus, as well as the need to protect the jobs of our great American citizens, I will be signing an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration to the United States. So a lot of big things are happening currently in the world economy, and we are living in historic times. This is literally history getting written right in front of our eyes. And of course, many news articles are getting written now. US oil prices turn negative as demand dries up. The price of a barrel of West Texas Intermediate, WTI, the benchmark for US oil, fell as low as minus $37.63 a barrel. Here we have the chart where basically you can see how oil went below this zero line and came down into negative territory. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. This is completely unprecedented, never before seen. And taking a quick look at the Bitcoin price, we did not see a bigger sell-off in the Bitcoin price. However, we have seen a lower high getting formed here. This was a higher high. Now we're seeing a lower high. And basically, we're seeing Bitcoin trying to get supported by this previous resistance level. And well, if Bitcoin were to break down below this yellow resistance line or support line that it should now be acting as, then we should expect lower prices. But currently, Bitcoin is still holding above this this support. But we can see now how Bitcoin got rejected by this level that I talked about yesterday and 2 days ago. This is a huge resistance point based on the VPVR, and so far Bitcoin has not been able to break above it. And this is the level that I am watching. Basically, it's approximately $7,300. As long as we're below this, the resistance is basically very strong. And before I leave, if you haven't tried BlockFi, make sure to go down into the pinned comment and click the link. You can earn up to 8.6% annually on your crypto. You can deposit Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, USDC, or any of these other assets, and you can make money passively on your balance. Of course, there is risk involved. That's why you are getting paid interest, just like the banking system should work. But currently, in this environment where you don't get any interest from the banking system, I think that this kind of service is very needed. And be very cautious out there, because there are, of course, projects that are not very good. But BlockFi is a very legit project. They don't even have a coin. They are backed up by Winklevoss and Gemini, and basically this is as legit as it goes in crypto. So go down, click the link, click earn interest now, and you will get passive income every single month off of your crypto. Let's see if we can push this video to 3,000 likes. That would be amazing. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't seen this video, then click right there right now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.